Hey there, I'm Cynthia, the Serenity Warrior Mama and founder of What You Seek Is Within. Welcome to today's presentation. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 steps to an amazing relationship with your spirited child. I've got some really great content for you, so I'm not going to waste any time. We're just going to jump right in. First, I want to talk about who this is for. This is for empathic mamas who currently have a strained relationship with their spirited child. If you're looking to recharge and gather the energy and patience you need to stop yelling and enjoy your relationship with your spirited child, this is for you. In the next 45 minutes, here's what we're going to cover. How to find the silence, space, and serenity needed to recharge without neglecting your child's needs. How to honor the needs of your own body, mind, and spirit even if you don't practice self-care now. How to find the energy necessary to enjoy spending time playing with your child, even if you're chronically exhausted. How to accept and support your child just as they are without having to agree with everything they say or do. How to distinguish between the anger of your spirited child and your own, even if you're an empath. How to gain the patience needed to stop yelling and rebuild the relationship with your child without relying on willpower. So here's my promise to you. In this presentation, I'm going to give you a step-by-step plan for creating an amazing relationship with your spirited child. Before we move forward, let's talk about some house rules. Number 1. This plan is not a magic pill. It will take hard work to implement. Number 2, if you're not 110% committed, this plan won't help you. Number 3, if you don't take responsibility for your own thoughts and actions, this plan won't help you. And number 4, the results you experience using this plan are 100% dependent upon the level of commitment and dedication that you bring to this work. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, before we get to the good stuff, I just want to take a second to check in with you to see where you're at. Does any of this sound like you? Do you secretly hide from your child just to escape for a minute of silence so you can hear yourself think? Do you feel extremely guilty for being too mentally and physically exhausted to play and laugh with your child? Do you feel completely drained at the end of every single day so that you have no energy left to care for yourself? Are you worried that you're emotionally damaging your child by yelling at them too much? Do you go to sleep dreading tomorrow because you just can't take another day like today? Do you worry that you're not giving your child the love and attention they deserve and that they'll end up looking for it in all the wrong places? And finally, do you feel like no matter what you do, you're failing as a mother? If any of that sounds like you, then I have good news. None of those things are the real problem. Those are just the symptoms. The real problem is that you haven't made what I call the shifts. And we're going to talk about what those are in just a second. But for right now, just know this. Once you make them, you'll feel calm and peaceful, even when surrounded by the chaos of your spirited child. You'll remember exactly who you are as a woman instead of just a mom, and you'll participate in the activities that make your spirit sing. You'll finally have an abundance of energy, a clear mind, and an intimate connection with your spirit that will allow you to spend quality time with your child and enjoy being a mom again. Worry will be a thing of the past, and you'll have no regrets about how you raised your child because they'll feel loved and cherished by you. You'll no longer take on your child's anger or anxiety as your own, and you'll be able to hold that safe space for them to understand their own emotions. you will finally have the exact relationship with your child you've always hoped for. Now, before we go too much further, let me take 2 seconds and introduce myself so that you know who I am and why you should listen to me. I'm Cynthia, the Serenity Warrior Mama and founder of What You Seek Is Within. I'm a self-care mentor for empathic mamas with spirited children. I've spent the last 8 years passionately and courageously researching the very best tools and strategies to find serenity amidst the chaos of my 2 very spirited boys. Over the last year, I have helped many mamas rebuild their relationships with their spirited children through local meetups, my Facebook group, and my one-on-one coaching program. So, let me take a second and tell you how I discovered the 5 shifts. I started researching parenting tools and strategies back in 2010 when I was told by my son's pediatrician that he would eventually be diagnosed with ADHD when he was old enough. I really wanted to be prepared, so I read everything I could find about ADHD, strong-willed children, spirited children. I really just wanted to help him, but I also wanted to help myself in parenting him because, let's face it, I wasn't doing a very good job back then. Then, in 2011, I developed a severe food allergy that literally brought me to my knees. To recover, I began studying nutrition, thyroid disease, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, which led me to meditation and spirituality. So, as I began to apply all that I had learned, not only did I recover from my severe food allergy, but I also lost 60 pounds and felt happiness for maybe the very first time in my life. I'd struggled with depression, anger, and anxiety my whole life. I tried everything that I learned, I kept what worked, and I threw out what didn't. Now, over time, I realized that there were 5 things that really made a huge difference for me. They brought me more energy, more patience, and more peace. And that's when I realized I needed to help my children do the same. By that time, they'd both been diagnosed with ADHD and were quite out of control. So I helped them to make the 5 shifts, and things turned around dramatically. My youngest son's ADHD symptoms decreased by about 75%, and my oldest son's symptoms decreased by about 50%. I mean, that is amazing. After making such a dramatic change for myself and my family, I really knew that I just had to help other families who were struggling with these same issues. So I started helping other families. And guess what? They started getting great results too. Their families were more joyful and loving than they had been in years. So here's the bottom line. There are 5 key shifts you must make in order to build an amazing relationship with your spirited child while rediscovering yourself in the process. I'm going to walk you through all 5 of these shifts during this webinar. Shift number 1. Eat for patience. Lack of patience and frustration are caused by what you put into your body. Now, you might not have heard this idea before, but I know it to be true from my own personal experience, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But you don't have to take my word for it. So let's take a look at a few experts who believe so as well. First, there's Dr. Gary L. Wenk, a professor of psychology and neuroscience, and he wrote a book called Your Brain on Food: How Chemicals Control Your Thoughts and Feelings. In it, he states, anything you consume, the drugs you take, the foods you eat, can affect how your neurons behave and subsequently how you think and feel. Let's take a look at Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine associates our body's organs with specific feelings. An unbalanced or stagnant liver, for instance, can lead to the types of thoughts which produce feelings of anger. And how about Dr. Bradley Nelson, the author of Emotion Code? He states that both the liver and gallbladder are associated with anger, guilt, depression, and frustration. The spleen and stomach, on the other hand, are associated with anxiety, worry, and low self-esteem. Now, I cannot overstate the importance of this shift. So if you're struggling with depression, anger, or anxiety in addition to your spirited child, please don't disregard this shift because it seems too difficult. Because if you're unable to make this shift, you'll continue to be frustrated and lose patience easily with your child, never finding the calm that you so desperately crave. Your negative thoughts will control you, and any parenting strategy you try won't work for very long. It's that important. Now, once you make this shift, you'll find yourself filled with patience and a newfound ability to remain calm and refrain from yelling at your spirited child when they misbehave. Your thoughts will become increasingly more positive, and training them will become simplified. Because you'll be holding a safe space for your spirited child, they'll also feel more secure in their relationship. Now, if you've ever done any mindset work, you might already know that thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results. But what people rarely talk about is what comes before the thoughts. And we just talked about how that is what you put into your body, whether it be food or drinks, self-care products, cleaning chemicals, or your surrounding environment and energy. It's these things that enter our body that cause thoughts, which eventually determine how we behave towards our spirited child. Now here we have a picture of the typical standard American diet, or the SAD diet as some refer to it. Hamburger, french fries, soda, ice cream, cookies, chocolate, muffins. All of these things that we put into our bodies. Now as our body is digesting this food, what do we get on the other side? Well, we get depression, anger, anxiety, despair, and frustration. Garbage in, garbage out. Does that make sense? Now, when I studied Ayurveda, also known as the science of life, I learned how digestion truly affects your body. There's this concept of digestive fire or Agni. So although we usually think of our digestive fire being in your belly, it's actually the force of intelligence throughout your entire body down to each cell. Our Agni determines what gets to stay in our body and what gets removed as waste. When it's imbalanced, we get negative thoughts and feelings such as depression, anger, anxiety, frustration, and despair. So you really want to choose the foods that will produce positive thoughts, feelings, actions, and results for both you and your child, like whole, unprocessed, organic foods. Okay, now let's take a quick look about how I learned all of this the hard way. I struggled with depression, anger, anxiety, and my weight pretty much my whole life. In fact, I weighed just under 200 pounds before I even got pregnant, and it just got worse from there. Here's a picture of me in 2003 before I got married. Now in 2011, I decided to do something about my weight. I tried a colon cleanse to help me lose the weight that I just couldn't take off any other way. Now initially, I felt great. My typical bloating had gone away, and I felt a sense of emptiness that I hadn't felt in years, and that's emptiness in a good way. But not more than 2 weeks later, I had a severe allergic reaction to something that I ate, and that was the beginning of my study of nutrition. I spent the next year trying to figure out what was causing my throat to close up when I ate things that I had always eaten, and I never had an issue before. I went to an allergist, and he put me on an elimination diet because the test that he ran only showed 2 allergies: shrimp and cats. I hadn't eaten shrimp in 2 years, and I didn't own a cat. I was eating only organic rice and chicken for quite a while until I was able to start adding some fruits and vegetables back in. I actually ended up losing 60 pounds in the process, and I felt absolutely amazing. So this is me in 2013. Quite a big difference. My mind was clear, I could focus better, and I was feeling real happiness for maybe the very first time in my life. So when I finally figured out that I had an allergy to petroleum products, which consisted of yellow dye number 5, which if you don't know is in literally everything, and my memory foam mattress, I was so ecstatic to finally know what was wrong and that I could eat whatever I wanted again. I started adding the foods back in that I had missed. Anything that didn't have yellow dye number 5 in it, I could eat. So gradually, I bet you can guess what happened. I began to feel bloated, unfocused, depressed, and angry all over again, even though I was at my ideal weight. Shortly after that, both of my boys were diagnosed with ADHD, so I decided to go see a local naturopathic doctor. She helped me to discover that I had an MTHFR genetic mutation. Now, if you've never heard of it before, that's okay, I'll explain it. It really just means that my liver isn't functioning at an optimal level and that my body has trouble removing toxins. Remember when I said the liver is tied to anger? Is it starting to make sense now? So that's why the cleanse affected me like it did. It pulled all of those toxins out of their hiding places that my body had stored for safekeeping, and my body just couldn't get rid of them fast enough. So it caused this inflammation and severe autoimmune response like anaphylactic shock. So once I realized that, I finally understood that I really needed to eat organic, whole, unprocessed foods like I had been so that I could protect my liver and control my anger. Now, even if you don't have an MTHFR genetic mutation like I do, and about 30% of the population does, your liver is still being affected by the toxins that you take into your body through food. So to sum it all up, the food that you put into your body is the number one determinant of your behavior. Because remember, thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions, and actions create results. Now remember what comes before thoughts? That's right, the food that you put into your body. So eat the foods that'll help you achieve the patience and calm that you desire. Then apply those very same principles to your spirited child and watch their behavior quickly change. Does that make sense? Okay, let's move on to shift number 2. Let go of your anger. If you're angry, either you want to be or you don't realize you have a choice. Here's one of my favorite quotes. Some people chase happiness and some people choose happiness, by Robert Holton, who's a British psychologist and author of Happiness Now. He also is the creator of the Happiness Project, which I was very interested in during my research because I wanted to be happy. I wanted to feel happy. Here's another great quote by one of my other favorites, Wayne Dyer, an American philosopher, and one of my all-time favorite authors. With everything that has happened to you, you can either feel sorry for yourself or treat what has happened as a gift. Everything is either an opportunity to grow or an obstacle to keep you from growing. You get to choose. If you never learn to choose how you feel, you will always be at the mercy of your spirited child's behavior. If they behave well, you'll be happy. But if they behave badly, you'll be stuck in your anger and frustration, never able to get out of the loop. Once you make this shift, you'll be able to feel happiness regardless of their behavior, which will also help you to remain peaceful and calm at a time where you would normally be upset. Just like in the previous shift, if you can hold this positive space for your child when they're losing it, they'll be able to bounce back much, much quicker to a happy mood for themselves. I love this topic so much. So let's take a look at a couple of other ideas. Don't believe everything you think. Your thoughts do not come from your spirit. You can choose to ignore them or change them once you're aware of them and this concept. Life is a series of choices, one after the other, that lead you up to the present moment. If you repeatedly make good choices, you'll wind up in a very good spot, feeling amazing. The opposite is also true if you repeatedly make bad choices. By choosing to look for the good and positive in your child, the negative feelings that you currently have around the struggle with them is going to disappear, and your relationship will begin to turn around dramatically. Once I learned that I had the ability to choose happiness, my whole life changed. I became aware of my thoughts, and I became hyper-vigilant about which thoughts I allowed to take hold. Any thought that wasn't helpful was replaced with something that led me towards happiness. I began to look for what went right with my child instead of what went wrong. I began to see the opportunities and the problems instead of just the problems. Looking at your relationship with your spirited child from a whole different perspective can be very uplifting. Choose your thoughts wisely, and you'll be able to control your feelings about your spirited child's behavior, whether good or bad. You are in control of your peace and happiness. Okay, now let's take a look at shift number 3. Use the master key. So what is the master key? Well, the master key is learning to love your child. It's not enough to just love your child. They need to actually feel love. According to Child Trends, many studies have shown that warmth in the parent-child relationship is related to positive outcomes for children. Higher self-esteem, better parent-child communication, and fewer psychological and behavioral problems have been linked to a warmth and affection between parent and child. In other words, a child who feels loved by their parents is much more likely to comply with their parents' requests and behave in a positive way towards them. According to Dr. Gary Chapman, there are 5 different ways that our children feel and express love. He writes, "Every child has a primary language of love, a way in which he or she understands a parent's love best. Your child needs to know he is loved in order to grow into a giving, loving, responsible adult." Now, I know that's what you want for your child. Dr. Gary Chapman is a pastor and author of many books on the various aspects of what he calls the 5 love languages. The 5 love languages are physical touch, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. Do you know what your child's love language is? If you're not speaking your child's love language and they don't actually feel loved, their negative behavior will continue to get progressively worse as time goes on, causing an even greater strain on the relationship. Once you make this shift, your child will feel loved, and the relationship you have with them will become more strong and more enjoyable. The negative behaviors will be easier to correct and eventually will decrease over time. Your child will show more respect and be more willing to abide by your rules and your requests. Now, I bet one of the number 1 problems that you have is getting your spirited child to comply with your requests in a respectful manner. Let's take a look at the old way of getting that compliance. How about reading tons of parenting books that each teach a different strategy to handle specific negative behaviors, scattering your focus and effort? Taking advice from family and friends who have children and sound like they know what they're talking about, but they don't truly understand your child. How about this? Taking your child to weekly therapy appointments so they can talk about what's bothering them without actually fixing the root of the problem. Or this one. Avoid the situation altogether and spend as little time as possible with your child because you can't handle the constant negative interaction. None of these get to the root of your spirited child's real problem. So let's look at the new way. We want to get to the root of the problem. After completing shifts 1 and 2, you'll have the ability to remain calm, patient, and positive with your spirited child when they misbehave so that you can unlock an amazing relationship with this master key shift. Exploring your child's love language to determine how to best show them the love that they need. Adding love, compassion, and understanding to all the parenting strategies you already know, and they will become enormously more effective. Focus on showing your child as much love as possible every single day to rebuild your strained relationship. And watch in amazement as your child begins to soften and respond positively to your requests with love and respect. Get to the root of the negative behavior, lack of love, compassion, and understanding, and your world will change. I want to talk about my own shift for a minute, because this shift was a total game changer and helped everything fall into place for me. As I began to show my children as much love and respect as I could gather, I quickly noticed a change in their behavior toward me. Now they hug me many times a day and they tell me how much they love me. And there is so much joy and peace in our home again, and an amazing feeling of serenity within. This is what I want for you and your family. So to sum up this master key shift, love your child in the way that they need to be loved, and you will have an amazing relationship with them. Let's do a quick recap. Shift number 1, eat for patience. Shift number 2, let go of your anger. And shift number 3, use the master key. Learn to love your child. Are you ready to go on to shift number 4? Here it is. Follow your joy. You have happiness, peace, and joy inside of you every minute of every day. After years and years of studying books on spirituality written by the greatest spiritual teachers, I came up with a signature mantra: what you seek is within. My belief in this idea is so strong that I chose to make it the name of my business. So here are some quotes from some great spiritual teachers that echo this mantra. What you seek is already in your possession, by Lao Tzu. What you seek is seeking you, by Rumi. What you seek, you already are, Deepak Chopra. All that you seek is already within you, Ram Dass. What you are seeking is not different from your very own self, David R. Hawkins. And lastly, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without, Buddha. If you continue to look outside yourself for peace, happiness, and the answers to your most difficult challenges, you'll continue to struggle with your spirited child. Now, once you make this shift, you'll find that peace, happiness, and joy were inside all along and have complete confidence in every decision you make for both you and your spirited child. So let's take a look at this shift a little bit more closely. First, connect with your spirit and surrender to the wisdom and guidance of your higher self and inner warrior. You are a perfect divine being at your core. If you'll allow your true self to shine through, not only will you become the amazing mom you wish to be, but you'll have the answers to your most difficult questions about your spirited child. Next, never make another pros and cons list again. Your gut feeling and mother's intuition is much more effective than that. But if you're not practiced at listening or you don't trust the information you receive, you're going to continue to struggle. Next, practice listening through traditional meditation or meditative activities. The more you practice, the easier it'll be to trust the information that you receive is leading you in the right direction. Your spirit's always going to guide you towards your highest good, but again, you have to be paying attention. Your spirit will lead you towards joy, happiness, and fulfillment. The happier you are, the better your relationship with your spirited child will become. I had spent years spinning in circles searching for the perfect parenting strategy that would get my children to behave in a manner that wouldn't make me want to scream. So when I started tuning into my spirit, I was guided to take care of my own health first. Because I wasn't in the right state of mind to apply any of the parenting strategies effectively, because I had so much depression, anger, and anxiety built up in myself. Once I learned to take amazing care of myself, body, mind, and spirit, I was finally able to maintain the energy, calm, and patience that I needed to be consistent with the parenting strategies that I already knew. This was a huge shift for me and my boys. I no longer felt the need to yell when I became frustrated, which happened way less often than before. And I was finally able to help my boys learn from their mistakes instead of just feel bad about them. I started each day happy, which was definitely new and different for me. Now, I check in with myself each day so it's easy to see when I'm getting off track with my food, sleep, or exercise habits. I can very easily recognize my mood beginning to shift. It prompts me to go back to my self-care for the sake of myself and my boys. So, connect with your spirit daily and learn to trust the guidance that you're given. You'll always be guided towards joy, peace, and happiness. Okay, let's look at our last shift, number 5. Invest in you, because you are your most important asset. According to a recent study conducted at the WHILS, 78% of women said they often put off taking care of themselves or getting health appointments made because they're so busy taking care of other family members' health. If this is you, it's time to reevaluate. Stop putting yourself last on the list and get help. Because the truth is, if you could have done this on your own, you would have done it already. You need a step-by-step plan to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Someone to hold your hand along the way and guide you back toward the goal when you get off track. Just like the naturopathic doctor that I hired to help me figure out what was going on, and the Ayurvedic consultant that I had to help guide me along my path, you need someone to hold your hand along the way and guide you back towards your goal when you get off track. If you fail to get help with this now, you'll continue to spin around in circles, moving from one parenting strategy to the next, never getting to the root of the problem. Once you make this final shift, you will have mastered all of the necessary shifts to have an amazing relationship with your spirited child. I completely understand why most moms put themselves last. We were raised that way. It's what we know, and there isn't enough time in the day to do it all. So that's why I highly recommend you stop trying to do everything alone. It is okay to receive and ask for help. Every day that goes by where you're not heading towards a proven solution, you're moving further into the problem. How bad does your relationship need to be before you reach out for help so you can show them how much you really love them? You only have so much time before your child becomes an adult and they're out in the real world on their own making critical decisions for themselves. Would you rather your child took your advice and acted accordingly because they respected you, or made really poor choices just to spite you? I know which one I'd choose. Unless you have endless amounts of time and a passion for studying nutrition, self-care, and the inner workings of your child's mind, you won't be able to do this on your own. It could take a decade and thousands of dollars in therapy and medication to figure out all you need to know to get this right. I started my research in 2010 when my oldest son was just 3 years old. We were told by his pediatrician that he'd likely be diagnosed with ADHD in the near future. Now, I'm a very A-type personality, so I immediately set about fixing the problem with passion and courage. But it still took me 8 very long years of research, trial and error to find out what really works and what doesn't. At least 2 of those years were spent learning to take care of myself so that I could be the mom my boys needed. Without that critical self-care, I couldn't effectively apply any of the parenting strategies I had learned. Being the best possible version of me, I was finally able to focus on my relationship with my boys and worry less about the strategies. And that was really the turning point. So, if you're tired of struggling and frustration and you want to have an amazing relationship with your spirited child, invest in you. Okay, so today I promised how to find the silence, space, and serenity needed to recharge without neglecting your child's needs. How to honor the needs of your own body, mind, and spirit, even if you don't practice self-care now. How to find the energy necessary to enjoy spending time playing with your child, even if you're chronically exhausted. How to accept and support your child just as they are without having to agree with everything they say or do. How to distinguish between the anger of your spirited child and your own, even if you're an empath. And how to gain the patience needed to stop yelling and rebuild the relationship with your child without relying on willpower. Just to sum up real quick, here's what you need to win. Number 1, eat for patience. Number 2, Let go of your anger. Number 3, use the master key. Learn to love your child. Number 4, follow your joy. And number 5, invest in you. These 5 shifts alone are enough to create an amazing relationship with your spirited child. And now, you have a choice. You can either take the information I've given you and you can forget all about it. You can keep on struggling with your spirited child, feeling completely drained and frustrated. Or you can follow this plan to regain your energy, patience, and peace while rebuilding the relationship with your child until it's amazing and exactly what you've always hoped for. If that's what you want, then here's what I have for you. I have set aside time over the next 2 days to personally connect with you to discuss how you can apply these ideas starting today. Whatever you're currently struggling with, I've already been through it, and I know how to help you overcome it. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes, and during this session, I'll work with you to create a step-by-step game plan to find serenity amidst the chaos, recharge and gather the energy and patience you need to stop yelling and enjoy your relationship with your spirited child. And the cost? Absolutely free. Now, when you come on the call, we're going to get you clear on 3 things. Number 1, what's really causing the strain on your relationship? Number 2, what's keeping you from making the necessary changes? And number 3, what you can do to go about getting the amazing relationship you're looking for. But here's the catch. This is not for everybody. Here's who this is for. You must be open to making changes to your diet and your child's diet for the sake of your mental health. You must believe in the incredible power of the mind and divine spirit. You must be all out of excuses and be ready to move mountains and rebuild an amazing relationship with your spirited child. You must take responsibility for your current situation and the actions that brought you there. And lastly, you must be willing to love yourself as much as you love your spirited child. If that's you, book a session now. So you might be wondering why I do this. Well, I do this because it literally breaks my heart to see other mamas struggle like I did for years. Being an empath, I know you can understand that. And more selfishly, because helping others brings me an immense amount of joy. I also know that you might want my help with rebuilding the relationship with your spirited child. If so, we can talk about that and see if it's a good fit for both of us. If not, that's okay too. So, if you want to book a call, go to serenitywarriormama.com/apply. Spaces are limited, so sign up now. Or you can also click on the button that says sign up now and you'll be taken there directly. Now, when you click on that button, you'll be taken to my calendar page where you'll see all the available appointments. Just pick whichever one works best for you. After that, you'll be taken to a really short application with about 5 or 6 questions. Just complete that and send it in. We'll get on the call with you at the appointment time that you picked, and it's going to be the best hour you've ever spent for your family. So go to serenitywarriormama.com/apply, and I'll speak to you very soon. It's been fantastic being able to share this information with you today. Before I go, I just want to share one last thing with you. When my last client came to me, he was really struggling with the relationship with his son. They were fighting all the time, and his son was repeatedly lying to him. Now, after we worked together, he saw an amazing difference in their relationship, and the level of peace in their home went from a 3 at very little peace all the way up to an 8 in just 6 short weeks. Here's what he had to say. I'm a single dad with an 8-year-old son with ADHD. Over the past year, our home has been a battle zone filled with fighting and lying. Working with Cynthia over the past 6 weeks has made amazing changes in our home. Cynthia has guided us in restructuring our home from diet changes to having a more positive mindset, getting in touch with my spirit, finding time for myself, and loving time with my son. Overall, a better, loving home, and my son has been a lot more truthful. P.S. As I was writing this out of the blue, my son came up, gave me a hug, and said, "I love you." Now that sounds like an amazing result and a great relationship. Okay, it's been great talking to you. If you want to book a call, go to serenitywarriormama.com/apply, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.